Hi, this is Reggie Vaughan with Toyota of Orangeburg, and you're watching the Orangeburg Educational Network.
Hi everybody, this is Harvey Elwood. We're at the Chief Solicitor's office, Mr. David Pasco. He's granted us an opportunity to have an interview with him and discuss some of the functions of his position and the functions of his office. Ms. Pasco, welcome to New Perspectives.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on.
Well, we thank you. It's been a while. We've been hoping to get you. We've invited you to the radio station so many times, but we know you're very busy. This is the third largest county in the entire state, Orangeburg, a population of about 100,000 people, and we know you have a major responsibility. We know this is a big bite out of your time for you to even come and sit down and talk with us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
First of all, tell our audience the duties of the solicitor, if you would.
Absolutely, and that's a great question because I don't sell things as a solicitor. A solicitor is the district attorney or the chief prosecuting attorney for a circuit. We are the first judicial circuit, which is made up of 3 counties, Orangeburg County, Calhoun County, and Dorchester County. In fact, I have 4 offices, 2 in Dorchester County, 1 in Somerville and 1 in St. George, 1 in St. Matthews for Calhoun County, and then we have this office here at the Orangeburg County Courthouse for Orangeburg County.
But that's very interesting because, you see, I was under the impression that you just had 1 county.
No.
Now that I realize, so you have well over 100,000 people in those jurisdictions, in those 3 counties combined.
We have close to 250,000 people.
Wow.
250,000 people.
So that means, but I've looked at your budget, and I don't think that your budget reflects the need, but we'll go back into that a little later on. Tell us more about the functions of the office, if you will.
Sure. Again, I'm the chief prosecuting attorney, and we'll talk just about Orangeburg County, really. For example, in Orangeburg County, we have a staff of 16 people, only 16 people. I say only because of the volume of cases and the things they have to handle. For example, we are in charge of every general sessions offense in Orangeburg County and every juvenile case in Orangeburg County. That is over 2,600 cases, and I have only 6 prosecutors to prosecute over 2,600 cases. That's over 400 cases a prosecutor.
So you're saying annually you have about 2,600 cases?
2,600 pending cases right now.
Wow.
Yep.
So you guys are a little backed up.
Big time. And as of October the 1st, we're only going to have, because of our budget, we're only going to have 5 prosecutors prosecuting over 2,600 cases. And that's not all that they do.
Let me play an advocate.
Sure.
On behalf of the people who are incarcerated, some of whom may be innocent, let's just say, for example.
Absolutely.
So that means that because you've got a roster of or a caseload of 26,000 that are waiting in queue to be prosecuted, those that may be innocent are just sitting there languishing in jail because you don't have enough money in order to bring those cases forward.
And that's one of my biggest fears. I have 2 big fears. One is we do have people sitting in jail waiting for their cases to be reviewed by my office. Well, if you have that vast number of cases and so few prosecutors, they can't review those cases in time to see whether they've committed the crime or not. One of the things I'm proud of is when we see that someone is sitting in jail for a crime they didn't commit, we get them out as soon as possible.
Now, as a follow-up to my original question, on behalf of the citizens of the community that you serve, let's say someone has been accused of a crime and they've been released on bond or released on bail. And if you're not able to bring them to justice and they're still out in the community, there's a likelihood that they very well may go and commit another crime, isn't that right?
And you just hit the second fear I have. 2 big fears. 1, innocent people sitting in jail. And number 2, the 1,000 people that we have out there right now on bond, many or most of whom did commit their crimes. We need to get to their cases as soon as possible so they're not out recommitting and committing other offenses. Most violent offenses are committed by the same culprit every time.
Now, let me ask you a question about, and this is a question about funding. Now, we know that in some instances there's forfeiture dollars for certain crimes. Do those forfeiture dollars come back to your budget in any way?
It's funny you ask that question because just today I've been running some numbers. I've actually, or not I, our office, the Orangeburg County Solicitor's office, it belongs to the people. We have brought over $300,000 to Orangeburg County since 2005 in forfeitures, bad check money, and in other sources. Some of that money does come directly to the solicitor's office, but a lot of that money goes to Orangeburg County.
Wow. Well, we would hope that we look at this area further And I'm glad that you're bringing this to the attention of our viewers, because it's so often people say a person's committed a crime, why can't they bring that person to trial?
Yes.
And that person turns around, Mr. Pasco, and commits another violent crime or another crime against a person or property. And that's a big problem. And we hope that this show will bring this to light and to the attention of the public. They're aware that it's not necessarily your office that's holding these things back, but the budget that you've been afforded that this allows you from being able to move forward in these situations. But I do want to talk about the success of the various divisions that you may have with the various programs that you have.
Sure, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, we have because that's the other thing we're in charge of, not just prosecuting cases, but we have a number of diversion programs in Orangeburg, such as...
Diversion meaning?
It gives people a second chance, an opportunity to maybe get rehabilitation or go to classes and then have their charge dismissed if they successfully completed those programs.
Well, many people in the audience know, and I've never held back in telling my own personal story. Had it not been for great judges and prosecutors of great eminence, in my opinion, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you. I share that story so often with so many people. And there are people who deserve a second chance, and I'm so glad that your office recognizes that. There's so many young people, for example, that are out there. We try not to ruin their lives, and I personally work with your office. I don't mind sharing that with our viewers, and the compassion that exists from your office on behalf of individuals. When it comes down to hard crime, you all deal out hard punishment.
Exactly.
And the citizens are very proud of you for what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to go into, because you got a great point. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on are the diversion programs we have for children in Orangeburg County. We started the Youth Mentor Program by getting churches and community associations involved. It was recognized recently as the best diversion program in the state of South Carolina. I'm extremely proud of Orangeburg County for that, and the churches and the organizations and community leaders and volunteers such as yourself who helped with that. Because the recidivism rate of programs like that is so much better than DJJ. As you pointed out, though, look, there are some children, unfortunately, just like adults, that we've tried to reach out to, they continue to commit crimes, they have to go to DJJ to protect ourselves.
Yes, of course.
But the vast majority of children just need some structure in their lives. And when they get that structure, they steer away from a path of crime. One of the other programs I'm very proud of is the Juvenile Drug Court program that we started in Orangeburg County.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's a great program. You know, a child who has a drug problem or maybe is committing crimes, petty crimes, to support that drug habit, we not only put them in the Youth Mentor Program, but we'll put them in a drug court program where they have to show up every week in front of a family court judge, get drug tested, and get counseling. Unfortunately, as of December 31st, we're going to have to end that program if I can't get more funding from county council.
Also?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question about that program, for example. What is the budget for that particular component? Could you tell us?
For drug court alone, most of the money comes from state funding. I actually pay for the counseling through state funds, but I have to pay my employees to show up every week in the evenings for 2 extra hours a night to work, and that comes primarily from the county funding, which I've seen a cut in Orangeburg County funding since 2008 of 13%.
So about how much money can you say we're talking about again?
Just to keep the drug court program alive, not more than $20,000.
$20,000.
If that.
So the state is a major contributor.
That's the major contributor.
And we need about $20,000 to maintain it for your guys to come, or your staff to come in for the evenings and to do this. I think it's worthy.
Absolutely.
And we'll let the public choose and decide which way would be best. We hope that they would have some input. That's the reason we do these shows. We do these shows to give enlightenment and insight, so the public will be aware of the various functionaries of this county and this community and the jobs that you guys are doing, both good and bad. And in this particular case, our assessment from new perspectives is it's been a good one on your part. I think the citizens are well pleased with your role and responsibility. And you know, one of the things I want the citizens to know is that unfortunately in Orangeburg, we're not even, I bet you don't know this, we're not even an inside agency. We are, the Solicitor's Office in Orangeburg is considered an outside agency. In other words,
Orangeburg writes a check every quarter to Dorchester County to pay these employees. None of these employees, the 16, 17 employees we have, get a check from Orangeburg County. They get their checks from Dorchester.
Why is that? Is that for some purpose of accounting? Is that the reason?
I think it is for accounting, and it's just easy, but that's not the way it should be. They should be Orangeburg County employees,
Sure.
get their paychecks from Orangeburg County. Most of them live here in Orangeburg. They work for Orangeburg.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I'm going to try to change in the upcoming years.
I wasn't aware of that, and I'm glad that you brought this to our viewers. Now, I know Dorchester County has a very large courthouse there, but that shouldn't have any reflection on our county. We have
None.
more people, from what I understand. Well, not actually. Dorchester County is going more towards Charleston, so I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, we have more cases in
We have more
Orangeburg County.
cases.
Many more criminal cases.
Okay. Ms. Pasco, tell us, what is one of your biggest concerns due to the lack of the funding that you guys are experiencing right now?
Really, other than the jail list I talked to you about and the fact that criminals are walking the streets, a huge concern I have is I do not want Orangeburg to revert back to the way it was a decade ago.
What do you mean when you say that?
You may recall that just a decade ago, we were the most violent county, not only in the state of South Carolina, but we were classified as one of the most violent counties in the country.
What would you say was done to reduce those numbers? What did your office do? What did law enforcement do in order to make that happen?
Well, fortunately, by 2006, 2007, those numbers turned drastically around. We went from the worst county to one of the best counties on violent crime, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, just again, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Solicitor's Office budget went up in 2007, 2008. The other thing is community outreach. The Solicitor's Office and law enforcement started getting involved with communities and had more crime watch groups. Other than a decrease in the budget, which can, obviously with law enforcement, decreasing law enforcement's budget can have a huge effect on crime. The next biggest problem is apathy, and you want to make sure that we don't have apathy in the community when it comes to crime. And that's
What do you mean, people reporting, getting involved?
reporting, getting involved, and that's one of the great things that the Sheriff's Office and the Solicitor's Office has done since 2005, 6, and 7, was we had a number of crime watch groups, a lot of community meetings, and we need to get back to that.
I've got a phone call from some of your staff not long ago. They talked about an initiative that you guys are starting, and I've always urged citizens, report crime. I've never been one of those people that say, you know, I'm going to go into this just briefly. I don't care who it is that commits a crime. Those people need to be reported on. People need to tell. Because the same person that robbed the guy across the street will come back and rob me or someone else. And I think it's every citizen's responsibility. And with that said, I did receive a phone call from someone on your staff telling us about a brand new initiative or an extended initiative that you guys are embarking on to involve the community more in terms of reporting crime and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Tell us about it.
What we'd like to do in the upcoming months is to put together a task force of citizens made up throughout the county, looking basically like at councilmen's districts. I don't want it to be too big a task force, but I want to have citizens that are already involved in the community, already involved with crime watch groups, to meet and come up with some ideas on how we can curb crime in Orangeburg, and how we can make sure we don't have that apathy that we had a decade ago.
Citizen input.
Citizen input, and give the citizens an understanding of what law enforcement does, what they can do, what the Solicitor's Office does, and what we can do.
I want to go back to something that you talked about in terms of the budget and the number of people that you have. You've got 16 prosecutors.
No, I only have 6 prosecutors. The 16 was total staff. That includes paralegals, secretaries, investigators. I only have 6 prosecutors for Orangeburg County.
And you got 26,000 cases.
2,600 cases. 2,600 cases.
So each one of the solicitors is responsible for approximately 400 cases.
Over 400 cases, yes,
Wow,
sir.
that's amazing. How many more would you say would be needed on your staff in terms of attorneys? Not the auxiliary staff, not the additional supportive staff, but just the lawyers alone. How many more would you need in order to move these cases through?
Ideally, you would like to have at least 10 more, or 10 total prosecutors, because that would give you 260 cases per prosecutor.
So you're talking 4 more lawyers.
4 more lawyers, ideally. There's no, I've only got 6 going on 5 now.
Right.
So I know I'm not going to get that. So you really need to have at least 7.
Let's talk about this really quickly. Violations of the law. Is it a violation of the law to hold somebody over if they're being held, they can't raise their bail, and they're being held in jail? Is it some violation if that person hasn't been brought to trial?
No, there is no violation of the law. Now there are things that can protect those people, like the attorney can file a speedy trial motion. And while it's not a violation of law, it's an injustice.
I see. Okay.
It is a 100% injustice. Whether they're guilty or not guilty,
Right.
they should be entitled to have their case tried in a timely manner.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add and let our viewers know about, Mr. Pasco, that we need to touch on?
No, I just thank you for bringing about awareness. You know, and I've always made myself available to the public. One thing we were going to talk about, education, schools.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
I've
please.
never turned down an opportunity to come speak to a class or come talk to a school.
Have you ever done the principal for a day thing at all?
I have not, but
Well,
I'd love to do it.
I'm going to speak to the superintendent of education here, Cynthia Wilson. I'm going to ask her to invite you as a principal of the day. The sheriff, I know, has done it. The mayor has done it. Many of the other business leaders have done it. And there's so many young people that I'm sure you've seen them, you've met them. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a lawyer. And some of them want to be prosecutors.
And I tell them to be a doctor.
We hope that you'll give us a chance to come back from time to time and talk with you, share some insights with us about what goes on in your office and things that we need to know about as a public. We hope that you'll be a friend of New Perspectives. I assure you, New Perspectives is a friend of this office. We've worked with you many times on a variety of different things. We really appreciate what you're doing here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Elwood. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too. Yeah, we're here with Attorney Thomas Sims. He is the former solicitor for Orangeburg County, and he had some observations that I would hope that you would share about, you know, we talked with the solicitor, the current solicitor, about the numbers of people that we have to deal with currently in the system. He gave a number about 2,600. Your background, perhaps you'll tell us how we got there, and tell us that during the time period when you were the solicitor and how that whole thing went.
Okay, I went to the solicitor's office in 1981. As a matter of fact, I was the first African-American attorney that was brought in as an attorney in the solicitor's office under Norman Fogle. After Norman retired, then it went to Joe Mazzell. And under Joe, I was elevated up to the deputy solicitor. And then after Joe, I became the acting solicitor for Orangeburg, Dorchester, and Calhoun County. In the early 80s, really about 84, 85, we had an explosion of drug trafficking here in Orangeburg County. Prior to that time, the docket was maybe 600-700 people, if that much. Then in about 84, 85, when we had the advent of the Hill and the notoriety.
When you say the Hill, meaning that's a particular community.
That's a particular community up on Coleman Avenue and around in that area. Gulf Avenue and then over in that area. Well, we had an influx, a major influx of drugs and drug dealers. As I told you, I-95, you can come off I-95 and come up I-26 and go anywhere in the country. So we had a lot of drugs flowing through the Orangeburg area. We had developed a number of groups that developed here. We had the Florida boys, the Jamaicans, the boys from New York and from over in Atlanta and other places. And it was like a street corner drug shop.
And at that time, I would imagine we were ill prepared.